A single night in the year 10,091 ended House Atreides. On Kaitine, Princess Irulan recorded the secret her father, the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, tried to bury. The slaughter was an imperial conspiracy. Under the cover of darkness, without warning, provocation, or declaration of war, the Harkonnen struck Arrakis. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen acted as the emperor's executioner, seemingly wiping the Atreides from existence. But as Irulan closed her journal, she knew a shadow still hung over the throne. Because in the deep sands of Arrakis, secrets rarely stay buried. A squad of Harkonnen search and destroy soldiers moved through a rocky canyon, their heavy armor clinking, their scanners sweeping the rocks. They believed their advanced technology made them invincible. They were wrong. From the seemingly empty rock faces, the Fremen materialized. They did not attack with the loud mechanical fury of the Imperium, but with silent, terrifying efficiency. In a matter of moments, the Harkonnen squad was eliminated, their high-tech gear useless against masters of desert stealth. In the fortress city of Arrakis, the atmospheric contrast was stark. The grand stone halls, once briefly occupied by the Atreides, were now draped in the harsh, dark banners of House Harkonnen. Deep within the subterranean labyrinth of Sietch Tabr, the tribal council gathered in a dimly lit, cavernous hall. The air was thick with the scent of spice and tension. Many of the elder Fremen argued fiercely to cast Paul and Jessica back into the desert, leaving them to the judgment of Shai Hulud. Stilgar led Lady Jessica deep into the lower levels of the Sietch, to a chamber sealed by heavy stone doors. Inside lay a massive, shimmering reservoir, an underground lake containing 38 million decaliters of water, painstakingly harvested from the dead over generations. The ceremony was a sensory overload of incense, chanting, and shadows. The dying Reverend Mother Ramallo lay on her bed, her eyes clouded. A vessel containing the bright blue liquid, the raw, toxic exhalation of a drowned sandworm, was brought forward. Despite her doubts, Chani found her respect for Paul growing. Unlike his mother, Paul publicly rejected the messianic narrative. He declared to Chani that Jessica's survival of the poison was not a miracle, but a demonstration of Bene Gesserit biochemical training. He insisted he did not wish to rule the Fremen, but to fight alongside them as an equal. Over the passing months, Paul fully immersed himself in the Fremen way of life. He learned their language, mastered their shifting desert walk, and trained alongside Chani, with whom he fell deeply in love. He became a respected Fedakan fighter, proving his worth in daring raids on Harkonnen spice harvesting operations. In the capital city of Arrakis, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen's patience had expired. The spice trade was grinding to a halt under the relentless onslaught of Muad'Dib's raiders. In a furious confrontation, the Baron demanded that Robin crush the rebellion immediately, warning him that if spice production continued to fail, the Emperor would strip House Harkonnen of their fief. Deep within the Imperial Palace, Princess Irulan stood before her father, Emperor Shaddam IV. She urged him to allow the conflict on Arrakis to escalate further. Her plan was cold and calculated. Let the Harkonnens and Fremen tear each other apart, and then the Emperor could descend as a savior to restore peace, securing his grip on the planet. But Irulan's mind was preoccupied. She secretly confided in her mentor, the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, wondering if Paul Atreides might have survived the slaughter. Mohiam's expression darkened. She warned Irulan of the stakes. If Paul was indeed alive, he would know that the Emperor had personally ordered the annihilation of his house. If the other great houses of the Landsraad ever discovered this betrayal of the Great Convention, they would unite in a war that would drag the Emperor from his throne and plunge the Imperium into chaos. Faced with Rabban's complete failure, the Baron decided to unleash his most dangerous weapon. He stripped Rabban of his authority and appointed his younger, sadistic nephew, Feyd-Rautha, as the new ruler of Arrakis. On the Harkonnen homeworld of Gedi Prime, Feyd-Rautha celebrated his birthday by slaughtering Atreides prisoners in a gladiatorial arena. Watching from the Imperial box was Lady Margot Fenring, a Bene Gesserit agent sent by the Sisterhood to evaluate Feyd-Rautha as a prospective Kwisatz Haderach alternative. The Reverend Mother Mohiam had demanded to know if the psychopath could be controlled, despite Princess Irulan's warnings that Feyd-Rautha was a monster beyond redemption. Following the gladiatorial games, Lady Margot Fenring successfully seduced the young Harkonnen heir. Under the guise of passion, she used the voice and psychological triggers to probe his mind and secure his genetic material. Returning to the Sisterhood, Margot delivered her report to the Reverend Mother. She confirmed that Feyd-Rautha was highly driven, deeply cruel, but sexually vulnerable, and therefore manageable. She revealed that she was now pregnant with his child, ensuring that his valuable bloodline remained safely preserved within the Sisterhood. Furthermore, she disclosed a dark truth about Feyd-Rautha's past. He had murdered his own mother, demonstrating a complete lack of empathy that made him the perfect, ruthless weapon. Back on Arrakis, Lady Jessica realized that the Northern Freemen's skepticism was a barrier to Paul's ascension. She decided to travel to the Deep South, the fundamentalist heartland where belief in the Lisan al-Gaib was absolute. She believed that her unborn child, who she was convinced could be the true Kwisatz Haderach, should be born among those who would worship him without question. Paul refused to accompany her. He remained in the north, haunted by recurring, terrifying visions of a galactic holy war. In his visions, if he traveled south to accept the mantle of the Messiah, billions of innocent people would die across the universe in his name. He chose to stay, desperate to find a way to defeat his enemies without unleashing the fanatical fury of the desert. In the fundamentalist temples of the Deep South, Lady Jessica immersed herself in the darkest rituals of the Fremen. She watched as a young sandworm was brought to a stone basin and drowned in water, its final agonized breath yielding the raw, blue liquid of the water of life. Jessica assumed control of the temple ceremonies. She issued a cold decree. If any man entered the inner sanctum seeking the truth, he must be allowed to drink the water of life. She made this order knowing full well that no male had ever survived the poison, choosing to let the lethal liquid act as a final test for the one who would come. During a daring raid on a smuggler-controlled spice harvester, Paul's blade crossed with a hardened, familiar warrior. To his shock, he found himself staring into the eyes of Gurney Halleck, the former Atreides war master who had survived the fall of Arrakis by embedding himself with the smugglers. The reunion was emotional, but Gurney's focus quickly shifted to war. He revealed a secret that changed the strategic balance. He knew the location of House Atreides' hidden stockpile of atomic warheads, kept safe from Harkonnen hands. Gurney urged Paul to use the atomics and lead the combined forces of the North and South to conquer the planet. But Paul hesitated, reiterating his dread of the future. He warned Gurney of the visions that plagued him. Visions of a universe burning in a holy war if he took the final step to lead the Fremen as their savior. The relative peace of the North was shattered when Feyd-Rautha launched a devastating, scorched earth bombardment. Using heavy artillery and air superiority, the Harkonnens decimated Sietch Tabor. In the brutal assault, Chani's close friend Shishakli was captured and personally executed by Feyd-Rautha. With their sanctuaries destroyed, Paul and the surviving northern Fremen were forced to flee to the south to seek refuge and attend the Great War Council. Realizing he had no other choices left on his narrow path to victory, Paul entered the southern temple and drank the water of life. He immediately collapsed, falling into a deep, death-like coma. When Chani arrived, she was devastated and furious at Jessica's manipulation. But Jessica utilized the hypnotic power of the voice, compelling Chani to approach the unconscious Paul. Driven by a desperate hope, Chani mixed her tears with a drop of the water of life and touched it to his lips. The poison was transmuted. Paul's eyes snapped open, blazing with an icy blue fire. His mind was flooded with absolute prescience, seeing a single narrow path to victory through the infinite timelines. He saw a future where an adult Aaliyah walked on a green, water-rich Arrakis. He also saw his own heritage clearly. Jessica was the Baron's daughter, a secret Harkonnen. The Bene Gesserit had engineered his birth to unite the two warring houses and produce the Kwisatz Haderach. And in that moment of absolute clarity, he knew the ancient name of Arrakis, Dune. Paul strode into the grand cavern of the Southern War Council. He was no longer the cautious young duke. He was a figure of terrifying, almost manic intensity. The thousands of gathered fundamentalists watched him in stunned silence. Paul did not ask for their allegiance. He demanded it. He marched through the crowd, pointing out individual warriors, exposing their deepest, most private thoughts, secrets, and fears to the assembly. He demonstrated a terrifying godlike omniscience that shook the room to its core. The crowd erupted in fanatical devotion. Declaring himself the Lisan al-Gaib, Paul openly challenged the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV to descend to Arrakis and face his wrath, setting the stage for the final confrontation. The sky over Arrakis darkened as the massive imperial ship of Shaddam IV landed in the basin. Accompanied by Princess Irulan, the Reverend Mother Mohiam, and the feared elite Sardaukar, the emperor set up his command post in the residency. Shaddam was furious. He summoned the Harkonnen leadership, brutally chastising the Barren and Feyd-Rautha for their incompetence. The Harkonnens had remained completely ignorant of the fact that the southern hemisphere was populated by millions of freemen, and that the rebel leader Muad'Dib was Paul Atreides. Before the imperial court could react, Paul's offensive struck. Using the Atreides family atomics, the Fremen blasted a massive breach through the Shield Wall Mountains, opening the path for a ferocious sandstorm. Riding colossal sandworms, the Fremen vanguard smashed through the Sardaukar defenses, throwing the imperial forces into total chaos. Paul and his Fedaykin stormed the residency. In the confusion, Paul confronted his grandfather, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, and executed him with a swift, decisive strike of his blade. Meanwhile, Gurney Halleck led a brutal assault on the fleeing Harkonnen forces, cornering and killing the sadistic beast Rabban, finally avenging the fall of House Atreides. With the battle won, Paul stood in the imperial throne room, confronting the captured emperor. He demanded Shaddam's abdication and the imperial throne, declaring that he would marry Princess Irulan to seal his claim. Chani watched from the shadows, her heart breaking as she realized Paul was choosing political power and the path of the prophecy over their love. Suddenly, word arrived that the fleets of the great houses had arrived in orbit, summoned by the Baron before his death. They stood ready to invade the planet. Paul walked to the transmitter and delivered a chilling ultimatum. If any ship attempted to land, his forces would destroy the spice fields permanently, ending all space travel and plunging the Imperium into darkness. Feyd-Rautha, seeking to save his house and claim the throne, stepped forward as the Emperor's champion. Paul accepted the challenge, refusing to let another fight his battle. The two clashed in a brutal, exhausting knife duel. Feyd-Rautha fought with sadistic precision, wounding Paul, but Paul's prescience and sheer determination prevailed. With a final desperate maneuver, Paul drove his blade into Feyd-Rautha, ending the Harkonnen line. Princess Irulan stepped forward, her voice calm despite the surrounding ruin. She agreed to marry Paul on one condition, that he spare the life of her father. The defeated emperor reluctantly knelt, kissing the ring of the new ruler of the Imperium. But the victory was short-lived. From orbit, the great houses broadcasted their response, refusing to accept Paul's ascendancy. Paul turned to Stilgar and his commanders, his face devoid of emotion. He gave the fateful command, "Lead them to paradise." Stilgar and the ecstatic Fremen rushed to board the captured Sardaukar transport ships, eager to carry their holy war to the stars. In the quiet of the temple, Lady Jessica and the spirit of her unborn daughter Aliyah reflected on the terrifying dawn of Paul's jihad. On the edge of the desert, Chani stood alone. Refusing to bow to the new emperor or his religious empire, she called a giant sandworm and rode out into the vast open sands, leaving Paul to his throne of ashes. Make sure to subscribe and turn on your notification to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.